Welcome to the Bella Grace podcast. I am so excited to bring my friend Arthur here. We are empowering you to build a sober life that you love. In this season, we're doing that by sharing stories of people who are just loving life, living sober, and just what it means to them and how they got where they are. So here we are. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we met not that long ago. Literally like a month ago.
Like almost a month tomorrow, right? It'll be a month.
Yeah, because tomorrow's the group again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but we immediately started talking and just hit it off. And I wanted to have you here to share your story because I watch you on Instagram and you have this energy and you have this really cool life.
It's fake. Just kidding.
No, it's not. Because I know you. I'm like, oh, he went there and he did that. And you went to Maui. I'd been to Maui. But your trip to Maui looked so cool. I was I got to go back and do it all over again.
Thank you. Yeah, and I for sure will. What's funny about that trip is a lot of it actually got canceled. Actually rained on the last day I was there. So I didn't get a chance to parasail. I didn't get a chance to scuba. My sunset cruise got canceled. Yeah, when I think about that, I think about it's just another reason to go back, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's an excuse to go back. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I told you, we have friends that live there. And so we were actually supposed to go back in July, but my mom's having surgery. And so I don't think we're going to go.
Right.
But my daughter was like, we should go to another island. But there's so much to do in Maui that you could go several times and never do it all.
Yeah, easily. So far, Maui is my favorite one. I did go to Oahu last year.
Okay.
Oahu is more commercialized. Yeah. It's a lot more like touristy. Gives you like a Miami vibe. Mm-hmm. So if that's the vibe you're going for, then totally go there. But if you want something more off the beaten path, then go to Maui. Yeah. You won't regret it.
Yeah, Maui's the best. Okay, so tell us your story. How did you get to living this life that you now have?
You know what's funny? I think that's a great place to start. You just said, I'm amazed, for lack of a better way to say it, by your Instagram and the things that I do. And it wasn't always like that. Yeah. Not at all. And I think I have to start at the beginning. Okay. And it has to be, I guess, 1989.
Ooh.
And that's when I was born. But
80s baby.
Yeah, I am an 80s baby. I can kind of claim it, right? Because it's 89. So, but 80s baby, 90s kid. So basically, like, my parents immigrated from Peru back in the mid-80s. So I guess, like, what is that? Maybe 13 borders or something they had to cross. Something crazy like that. Yeah, so the whole trip took about a year to get here. And I guess I'd like to tell people I was like strategically planned because at any point, I guess I could have been maybe a Mexican baby or I could have been a Honduran baby or I don't know, something. But, they patiently waited. And so when they came over here, just imagine poor, not a lot of resources. I think they worked on a ranch. I think the first couple of years, just doing like manual work the first year, and then I was born. So after that, they left. They left this little town, where I was born. It was called Palestine. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes.
I don't know what the population is, but it's
not very many.
Not very many people. And then they moved to what they would call a bigger city, which was Tyler, where I would later grow up. So grew up in Tyler for about 20 years. The first 20 years of my life I spent in Tyler. But the funny thing is, and I have to start, I guess, kind of here, is it started, I guess, in 1994. I found myself just being that kid that always liked to like be outside, being around other friends, being around other kids. So always seeking, I feel like, community, even at a young, early age. Like my mom, she would take naps in the afternoon. My dad would be at work. And this is when we lived in like a little 1-bedroom apartment. So I'd see her go to bed or, take a nap. And I'm like, I'd take my bike out, take it down the second floor. And I'm like 5 years old at this point in 94. Take my bike out and I'd hear all the kids outside in the parking lot playing. And it'd be like kids like all ages. It'd be like from 5 years old to like 12, 13 years old. But just picture like kids and their bikes, toys, jump roping, radios outside playing. They're playing like Tupac. They're playing like Biggie, whatever's, I have vivid memories of like the music playing. People like having their headphones in, like it was like back in the day, it was like cassettes.
Yep.
And
the
so
Walkman.
the little Walkmans. And I remember seeing it, and it was like such like it was such like a shock to me, I guess, seeing that, because I remember just being like, before then I didn't really do much. Like I just spent like my days like watching TV, and like I had just had an affinity for like music. So like I remember I have early memories of like listening to like Michael Jackson on MTV and then VH1, and so like all of that. And that's the stuff like I kind of grew up on. I grew up on like on 80s music. That's my parents like really loved. But anyway, so like back to like hanging out with the kids around the block. So I jumped off the porch basically when I was 5 years old, hung out with a bunch of kids around the neighborhood. Like we'd listen to music. We just would take our bikes. We'd bike over to the 7-Eleven. We'd have like a couple of quarters in our pocket. We'd buy like, gum, ice cream or something like that. And we just do that like the majority of the afternoon. We'd be there like all afternoon until late night before the sun was going to set. And I think at that age, I started to realize that I was a person who was really into like being around people and being around friends and really seeking like circles, and like it was almost like innate. So I think that I'm saying all that to say, because later I'm going to jump into kind of how my sobriety started, but then also why it led me there.
Yeah.
So just, fast forward to there. We lived there for, a couple years, Tyler, until we kind of actually ended up moving to like the country part of Tyler, which is like 15 minutes outside the city. It was culture shock for me because I had been growing up with all these friends and all these kids, and like just growing up, like always having something to do, someone to talk to. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have to talk to my siblings now. I have to talk to my dog now. And then that was kind of weird. So I think like our nearest neighbor would be like maybe 15 minutes away.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really in a remote part of of Tyler, and they actually live here to this day. That's where they live now.
Yeah.
And that's where I live currently with them. So anyways, went to this school, and I would later, go to high school. I would go to high school there, and actually, let me take a step back.
Yeah.
Because it actually starts, I think, in middle school. 6th grade was the first time ever that I found out what weed was. Yeah. 6th grade. Yeah. It started pretty early for me. I don't know if that's early for everybody, but I want to say that's early for most. And I remember just like being like a 6th grader, first day of class. It's like middle school, right? Yeah. 6th grade is middle school. So like you walking around the hallways, and you're just like, and all of a sudden it's like you smell like this funny smell, like coming from the bathroom, and you're like, what is that smell? Like, I don't know what that is. So, like I remember just walking in. It's like these other 6th graders in there, and they're just like, they have this like, I think it was like a zigzag rolled up, and they were just sparking it. And I was like, whoa. I was like, this is everything that I've heard about, and it's like right in front of me. And I didn't partake that day. I don't know why I didn't. I knew them, but I just was like, I'm just going to handle my business in here and get out. You know what I mean? It was like, we had like maybe 5 minutes before the bell was going to ring. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to do my thing and just get out. So that would be probably the first introduction into knowing what, marijuana was, what weed was. My school was very, very weird. Like, it was like, from face value, like you look at it, you're like, oh, this is a quiet little country school. When you're in it, it was like, whoa. It was like a whole lot's happening, and it's just like, how in the world is any of this happening? This doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to fast forward to 8th grade, just to kind of give you a better picture too as to like how I got introduced to drugs and all that stuff. 8th grade, art class, 2nd period. I think it was probably like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Down to the...
I really do. There was this guy, and I won't mention his name, but he was just super pale white. And I was like, man, he's sick. Like, that sucks. Like, sucks to be him, But unbeknownst to me, he wasn't like cough sick. Like, this poor guy, like, apparently had, like, taken, like, some Xanax.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And apparently, like, this other guy was like, they were like all like popping pills, I guess, in 8th grade.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So young.
Yeah, and so young. And everybody's just like, in my brain, I'm like thinking like, I didn't know what was happening, but I just knew like he just didn't look right. He was like sweating, but he looked cold. He had a sweater on, but he was just like pale. And then whatever, we leave second period. I don't have his class. I don't have a class with him anymore. He goes to another class. And then what ends up happening is like, I end up finding out like he ended up just collapsing like in the middle of class. Yeah, they ended up rushing him basically to like the ER. And they had to basically pump his stomach out, because he had overdosed.
Yeah,
he had overdosed. So it was like, dang, that's crazy. He ended up surviving, thankfully. Yeah. And that's kind of how I guess I got introduced or knowing about what pills were.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, there's kind of a trend. I found out about drugs kind of at an early age, kind of firsthand. So ever since I saw that picture, that kind of freaked me out, and that kind of scared me. And I was like, yeah, I would probably never do pills. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Or what I don't know what's going to happen to me. So like, I didn't mess with them. First time I ever had a drink though, and I think this is a good place to start too. I know I'm all over the place, but
there's You're flowing.
There's a lot of great stories here. First time I ever had a drink was actually from my dad.
Yeah.
He gave me my first drink, and he had all the best intentions in the world actually to give me a drink. He said this. He's like, I'm going to give you a drink of this, and I think it was like Seagram's.
Yeah.
Like a wine cooler. Mm-hmm. And I'm giving you this drink so that you just know that what it is. So you're not curious later down the road. You actually will know what alcohol is, so that when people invite you, give you alcohol, you'll just be like, nah, I know what it is, and I'm good.
Yeah.
So I remember drinking it. I think I was like 14 years old. I was in 8th grade. And I remember drinking it. I was like, I didn't like it. It was kind of like very it just had it tasted very alcoholic. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I was like, okay, so I get it. And so I drank it, and I was like, okay, it's not really for me. I mean, at that age, you just you drink something and you don't like the taste. You just kind of don't want to mess with it.
Right.
But then the following year would be in high school. Now, for everybody who knows, who comes from Hispanic culture, that 9th grade, you're 15 years old, you're going to get invited to a lot of what we call quinceañeras.
Yep.
Quinceañeras, right? And wow, there was no shortage of that at my school, even at other schools. So I don't know how it is here in Dallas, but in the small town that I grew up, you don't even have to be invited.
No, you just show up.
You just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just show up. It's like this huge party, and everybody's invited. There's alcohol, there's dancing, there's music, and it's basically like a club environment, basically.
And someone's uncle is the bodyguard or the bouncer, so everybody drinks because nobody's actually keeping track of anything.
Yes, yes. So I remember the first time I was invited to one, actually, I was invited by my coworker. Her name was, I'm blanking on her name, but that's not important. She invited me over to her quinceañera. And she was like, yeah, come anytime you want, but this is when, the party starts. So I was like, okay, cool. So I roll up solo, basically, I don't know why. I roll up solo, and funny story is I run into people that I know from my school. Yeah. So I'm like, great. My friends are here. I guess I'll hang with them. And they basically had before we even walked in, they were like, hey, come to the truck. And I was like, all right, walk up to my homie's truck. And he has a cooler. And he has a cooler full of beer. And up until, I'm telling you, up until this point, I haven't drank yet. I don't know what it is. I only had that sip of wine cooler, and that's all.
Yeah.
I get there, and I'm like, okay. He's like, here you go. So you take it, and you drink it, and I'm drinking. I'm like, ugh. I ate it. It's I think it was probably Bud Light. But everybody tells you, you just keep drinking it. You'll get used to it. This is the psychology behind drinking, right? You'll get used to it. It's an acquired taste. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I drank, and I was like, all right. And I did have a good time. That was the funny thing. Yeah. But I think a lot of what I'm going to tell you next too is going to be part of my personality. I think it goes back to what I was telling you earlier. It's I'm a person who kind of craves being around people. Uh-huh. Like,
yep.
And not that I can't stand on my own 10 toes, because I can, and I do all the time. But like when I'm around people and they're a vibe and there's like, things around, I'm like, okay, I want to take it to a next level kind of thing. So I have this like larger than life personality. Like anybody who knows me knows that I can't have one of one thing. I need to have 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 of it.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah, on the Chipotle line, like, yes, I won't guac. Yes, I'm not cheating myself out on anything. Like, I don't know.
Give me everything.
And I think it goes back to probably growing up and not having a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I grew up, like I told you, very poor. And everybody has their own definition of poor. But I will say my definition of poor was growing up in a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, sharing it with 3 siblings, 2 parents, and no internet. We didn't have internet, I think, until I was like well into high school, maybe middle school. My parents for sure gave us like what we needed. We had clothes, we had food, but like they weren't buying me name brand stuff. Like I wasn't getting any Nike Jordan. I wasn't getting anything like that. Like we actually did a lot of thrift shopping back in the day. But before it was cool. Like, I don't know if this is going to resonate with anybody right now, but like right now there's like a resurgence. Like going to a thrift shop is cool. Like finding something really nice, like, and you telling them you paid $2 for it is a huge flex.
Yeah.
No, back then it was not. No. It was like you huddled, you creeped into the store. I mean, like, you just didn't want to be seen. Yeah. You just, that's just how it was back in the day.
And you hoped you didn't buy something that belonged to someone at your school.
Exactly. Because then it was going to be like, whoa. Like, and it could have well happened because we grew up in like a small town.
Yeah.
So you really had to really just be like really on the lookout for that. But no, seriously. Grew up mostly like thrift shopping. Grew up mostly like buying all my shoes. I was from Walmart. I mean, pay less. So I had like a very humble childhood.
Yeah.
There was a lot of times when my parents told me, no, you can't have that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I can't have that. There was a lot of times where, I wanted something and I wanted really bad and they just were like, we can give you this.
Yeah.
But, like I didn't grow up Nintendo. I didn't have a Nintendo.
Yeah.
I didn't have my first system until I think I was like in 8th grade or something like that. I was like, so I grew up throughout the whole 90s, like not having anything, like as far as like video games. I didn't have that. I didn't grow up with a lot of like the pluses that were available to me at the time. Now it's a different story because now, I do make a good living. I went all the way back and I bought everything that I missed out on. That was like, yes, like I'm going to have that Super Nintendo and I want it brand new in the box. Like I found something on eBay and I was like, oh wow, like it hasn't been opened. I'm buying it. Yeah. I want to know what that feels like to actually open a brand new one. So I did. Anyways, I know, funny, right?
Why not, though?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? So I did grow up very poor. And when I was 15, I told myself, like, I want to work. I want to make my own money. I want to, like, buy what I want to buy. I want to buy, like, name brand stuff. I want to be able to go to the mall, buy nice sneakers, nice outfit. I was just driven by that. And I think I was driven by that a lot because also, like, not just the kids at school, but also like you turn on TV, you watch like MTV, you watch your favorite rappers, your favorite musicians. They're all dressed looking real fly. Mm-hmm. And like that really inspired me. My dad actually, believe it or not, like I was also inspired by his fashion. Like he always looked nice, even if he bought like an outfit from thrift shop, but like he always looked sharp. And I mean, his vibe was like Polo Ralph Lauren button up with like khakis and maybe
that was my dad too.
So yeah, exactly. Ultimate dad fit.
Yes. My dad refused to go out looking good. Like he always said, like you need to look nice no matter where you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you have, you can still look put together and nice.
Yes.
And you said sharp. I haven't heard someone say sharp since my dad was alive. In the 90s, my dad passed away in 93.
I'm sorry.
And he used to say sharp. You look sharp all the time. So anyway.
I'm an old soul. If y'all haven't realized that yet, you might realize that at the end that I just use a lot of these old like little words and stuff like that. Nobody uses anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I did grow up very poor. The motivation was to work and just make money, buy what it is that I want. So that way that I can kind of like, for for lack of a better word, fit in. At that point, it was really about fitting in. It wasn't about, it wasn't about, oh, like, I'm going to buy this because I want to look different. Mm-hmm. And I want to look. Now, I think it is. Like, now it's all about, like, you know, the more different you look, the more cooler you are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The more you stand out, the better it is for you. But back in the 90s and the 2000s, it was not like that at all. No. The last thing you wanted to do was stand out, because that made you a target to people who wanted to, like, beat you up, or maybe somebody was going to, like, start making fun of you. Like, bully culture was big back then. It was big,
yeah. And it's crazy because now, like, bullies get nipped in the butt immediately. Like, you know, it's that's like, good. But back then, swirlies were a real thing. Getting your head in a toilet in the boys' bathroom was a real thing.
Right.
Like, and if you stuck out at all, you were a target.
It really was. And I remember you saying this, I think, from the first episode with Joe, which I really loved, by the way. That was really awesome. You know, you were mentioning about, like, these movies, like Blood In, Blood Out, American Me, Friday. A lot of the kids that I went to school with had those movies on replay. Yeah. So, like, they thought that was, like, how you're supposed to act. So, like, every day going to school sometimes could be like going to jail. Yeah. And so, like, I'm telling you, like, people really, like, and whenever they say kids shouldn't watch certain movies, it's true, because they will imitate it and they don't know what that means. Mm-hmm. And, like, you know what I mean? Like in my school, like, there was, like, wannabe gangs. Like, we had Northside Cribs, I think we had Bloods, I think we had Eastside. I mean, all of that is, you know, all that represents a bigger thing, but obviously, and I don't think anybody was truly affiliated with these people, with these organizations, or these people, or anything like that. But those beatings were real, and it really did go down at my school. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm all over the place, but I'm loving it. So I am too. So let's bring it back a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, I was basically saying I didn't grow up with much, so I was basically looking for acceptance, I think, in those years, looking to fit in with people. And definitely, I think it was the weirdest thing about our high school was, like, it was very heavily segregated by choice. Yeah. Like, I'm telling you, like, I go back to those movies. Like, it was exactly like that. It was like Hispanic people were with Hispanic people, white people were with white people, and black people were with black people. Yeah. And everybody just stuck with their kind. And so, like, me, I looked at myself, I was like, I guess I got to be with, like, Hispanic people and try to fit in and try to, like, hang out, talk the way they talk, walk the way they walk. And so, and I figured it out pretty quick, like, kind of like how to dress and what you should say, what you shouldn't say, and all this stuff. And, like, basically, like, for a lack of a better way to say it, I was kind of like a follower back in those days. We all kind of were. We all kind of were just like, nobody was a true leader back in the day. We were all kind of like following each other and trying to make each other feel better about it, I guess. Yeah. Because I guess we thought there was strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. And we were just like, gosh, like we were like clones of each other. Like, if we all dressed the same and we all talked the same, it's kind of weird now to think about it. There was no individuality. Yeah. So all right. So that was the environment of my school. But back to the quinceañera. So yeah, like, that's when I started drinking. I started drinking heavily because, like, I saw my friends drinking and they were having fun. And I was like, if I drink like them, maybe I can have fun. Yeah. And what's weird is I wish somebody would have told me back in those days, like, maybe, like, if you were to drink, maybe you should have a limit. Yeah. I think if you have kids, and I don't, so maybe I'm not the right person to say this, but all I can say is from maybe, like, a kid's standpoint, talk to your kids about alcohol, because regardless they might end up drinking. You don't want them to drink, but the reality is that they might get invited to that party. There's alcohol. They get invited to drink it. They'll drink it. What you should tell them is, like, be well aware of, like, a limit. Set a limit to say before you end up actually getting to that point where you're drunk. Because then when you do get drunk, it's harder to turn that ship around. Yeah.
My daughter's 16, and that's exactly what I've always told her. Yeah. Because my first party I ever went to, blacked out, was date raped. And that was my first time truly being drunk. I got drunk at my quinceañera, But it was like Parrot Bay. My brother was there. He was keeping an eye on me.
Yeah.
He actually controlled like how much I was drinking. I didn't get drunk.
Yeah.
I still remember everything. And my first high school party, I completely blacked out. And so I've always told my daughter, like, and I know this because my degree is in it, and I know all about half-life and how much it takes to metabolize alcohol and everything. So I've always told her, like, 1 drink per hour, and you won't get drunk because it gives your body enough time to metabolize it.
Right.
I've always told her that because, I don't want her to go to a party and get blackout drunk and not know what's happening or not know what's happening to her. And it is like, and I tell people, because I went to Texas Tech, and so I tell people who are sending their kids to Tech, I'm like, there's nothing to do in Lubbock except drink. So there's no like telling your kids not to drink. You need to teach them how to drink smart.
Right. Well said. For me, it was like I wasn't getting any of the advice from my parents, and I didn't want to tell them that I was drinking. Like, all they knew was like, hey, I was going to a quinceañera, and they probably thought like, oh, I'm going for like the food, the part before the party.
Yeah, the
comida. I wasn't even going to that. Like, I'm not gonna go to that. I'm gonna wait for like the lights to go off and for the music to start blasting and for the drinks to start flowing. Like, that's what I was more or less like looking to go do. And and then all the advice that I was getting was from my friends. Like, they were basically like, if you're gonna drink, let's go get something to eat at McDonald's real quick, and like, have something on our stomach, so that way we don't get drunk too quick. And then they would say like, oh, like, what is the rule? I forget. It's like liquor and beer. You're in the clear, something like that. Liquor before beer, or beer before liquor. Never quit. I don't know.
Never sicker. I can never remember it, and that's probably why I screwed myself so many times.
Yeah. I never probably followed the rules, and honestly, like it bit me in the butt a few times. I was taking all of the cues from my friends, and they obviously don't have experience. They're obviously learning as I'm learning, and then so that's not really ideal. So that really opens the gateway to making some stupid decisions as well. Yep. And I have a ton to tell y'all about that.
Yeah.
So, actually, let's go ahead and jump from when I was 15 to when I was 18. So I remember when I was 18 years old, Saturday night, I was basically the one that was always driving. And I drove drunk a lot of times. Yeah. And I don't promote that at all. It's stupid. Especially now, you have cell phones. You can call somebody, or there's Uber, there's Lyft. But
options.
There's much more options than back in the day. When I was growing up. So I think this was probably 2006. I'll say this was probably 2006. I think it was like 17 or 18, something like that. And we went to go drink at this club called Rio, which is about 20 minutes outside the city, outside of Tyler. You go and you go to this club. It's all Mexican music. And we're pre-gaming in the car before we walk in there, because obviously you can't drink in the club if you're not over 21. And we were like 17, 18. But they will they basically let people in. Like, I guess you have to be 16 to get in. But we got in. And we're in there, whatever. We want to go dance with girls, talk to girls, and, drink. And so we're doing all that. And believe it or not, actually, that was the first night I ever saw like a tennis ball of cocaine in my face. Yeah, like one of the guys who was able to like get us in without paying was like from my same school, like busted out this like rock, and I thought it was a golf ball. I really thought it was a golf ball. I was like, why do you have a golf ball in your pocket?
Take a golf ball to a club.
Yeah, like, are we gonna shoot later?
What are you gonna do here?
Yeah. So no, and it was like, he's like, no. He's like, I was like, oh. I was like, okay, interesting. So anyways, we leave the club. It's probably like 2 a.m. We left when it closes, because obviously when you're young and dumb, like, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You stay up until the whole time. You stay the whole time. Yeah. And so like, get in the truck, 3 other guys with me, get in the car. We got to get back on the highway, and we're driving. And I wasn't really drunk. I think I was buzzed, and I can back it up with what I'm going to say here in a second. But like, we're in the car, we're on the highway, and I'm doing like 60 miles an hour, and the guy in the back is like, hey, do 100. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I mashed the gas and I'm like 70, 80, 90, 95, 97. Bloop, 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 bloop. Lights in the rearview mirror. My heart sinks. I'm like, what the heck is? So I'm like, great. I didn't even hit 100. So now I'm I'm in trouble for not even,
not even reaching my goal.
Yeah, exactly. I feel so cheated. So I'm pulling over, and it's a state trooper. So everybody knows those are not the ones that are going to give you warnings.
No.
Like a state trooper never gives you a warning.
They don't play.
Yeah, they don't play. They're ready to lock you up. Comes up to the car and he's like, hey, license, registration, all that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, here you go. And he's like, have you been drinking? And I was like, I said something like, not really. He's like, not really. And he's like, hold on one second there. He comes back at it and he's like, hey, I want to do a series of tests on you. And I guess I didn't know at this point that you could deny that.
Yeah.
You could basically say no and whatever, they would do something else. But I said, okay, being naive and everything. I was like, so he does like the pen test and he makes me walk the line. And then I thought I did good. Because then he's like, okay. And he's like, I'll be right back. I was like, thank God. I was like,
I passed.
We're about to be out of here. Yeah, we're about to be out of here. He's like, he brings out a breathalyzer.
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh, great. He's like, I want you to blow in this. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like praying, I'm praying, like, please, God, please, like. And I blow, and he's like, I think I blew like maybe a 0.04 or a 0.03. So I was technically not drunk, but I was under the limit. So he tells me this. He's like, hey, you're technically not drunk, but you have been drinking and you're underage and you've been speeding. You were in a construction zone.
Oh, no.
I was in a construction zone. So he's like, I could literally, he says this exactly word for word. He's like, I could literally end your life right now. But.
Not creepy at all.
Yeah, I know, right? Right? He's like, but I'm not going to do that. The catch is, I can write you a ticket for the speeding. I won't do anything about this alcohol. The catch is you have to call your parents right now and pick you up. I'm like, there's no way. In my head, I'm thinking, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's not, there has to be another way.
There has to be another
option. Yeah. By this point, it's probably already 3:30. Mind you, the tests and all of that, breathalyzer, took time. It's 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, all right. So I tell the cop, sure, I'll do that. He's like, all right, I'm going to go to the cop car. I'll be back in a little bit. Call him. All right, so I'm looking at my friends. I'm like, who are we going to call to impersonate as our parents? Because that's what we need to do right now. Because I'm not calling my parents. So one of my friends is like, yeah, I can call my brother and, he can be like your dad and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, we'll call him. The guy never shows up. He's like, I'm going to be there, give me 15 minutes, 20 minutes. All right, 20 minutes passes, nothing. 30 minutes passes. And the cop comes and he's like, well, are they on their way? Because it's getting kind of late. It's almost 4. And we're like, no, they're on the way. They're just having car trouble. And it's like the lies just flow off the lips, right? And he's like, all right, I'm going back to my car. Make sure that they're on the way. I'm like, all right. And this is the era of maybe Nokia phones, just to paint y'all a picture. Yeah. Nokia phones, razors. I mean, this is limited technology at our disposal right now. Yeah. So we call him. The guy's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I'm like, crap, what's going on? Same time that happens, cop comes back to the truck and he's like, what's the deal? We had a deal, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I know they're taking a while and I just think they're on the way, but I think they're lost or something like that. He's like, all right, well, I have to leave right now. I'm going over that hill. I'm going to be over that hill and I can still see y'all. So if y'all try to run, I'm going to know that y'all are going to run and I'm going to book y'all.
Oh my gosh.
We're like, okay. It's 4:30 already. And we're waiting 30 minutes and we're looking in the rearview mirror. We're like, I don't know if we see his car anymore. We can probably just get away But at this point, I don't even think we're drunk anymore. I don't even know. Like, we're just tired. We're just sleepy. We just want to get home. Like, it's been a long night. We've been on the side of this highway forever.
Yeah.
And so, like, we're like...
A few hours at this point.
A few hours at this point, for sure. And, my friends was just like, yeah, let's just go. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Crank it. Mash the gas. Pedal to the metal. Didn't even look back.
Oh my gosh.
He did give me before he left, he did give me the ticket for the speeding.
Yeah.
But I never saw him after that, after I booked it. And you know what? After that experience, you would think that I learned my lesson. But what you're going to learn today is I'm very hard-headed and I'm very stubborn. And I have this mentality that, like, you know what? Maybe there's a better way, to force what I want, and it's all about what I want. Mm-hmm. And fast forward to today, I'm completely the opposite. It's like everything that I want, I vet it with God. I have prayer time with God, and I spend time in His Word. And I basically ask God, like, God, is this what you want from me? Or is this like going to bring glory to your kingdom? Or is this just something that I'm trying to put on because I think it's great? Yeah. I'm actually going through something recently right now where I'm actually praying to God for wisdom on, and I'll go ahead and I'll make this announcement right now. I'll make it live here on this podcast. Yes, let's do it. So I recently just came back from California. It was beautiful. I loved it. And I've been to California many, many times. It's like my tradition to go usually during my birthday. This time I didn't go. I went to Maui, as you know. Mm-hmm. But I went to California. I got to see Carmel Valley, Big Sur, and I got to see LA, Laguna Beach a little bit. And, anytime I'm out there, I always feel like a sense of, like, belonging. Mm-hmm. There's just, like, huge, like, tugs at my heart when I'm there. It's like, you need to be here. The oceans, the mountains. It's like the weather. It's like... I'm smiling because my husband and I have the same feeling every time we go to California. And we go every year, too. Really? Yeah. Oh, gosh. So it's not just me. No, but I'm not discounting your feeling. Yeah. I'm just saying that I can resonate with that longing to be there. I feel like a part of me belongs there. I don't know if it's living there full time or having a piece of my business there or what, but yeah. Well, you know what? Pray about it. That's all I can tell y'all to do is just pray about it. If it's the right move, it's not the right move. That's currently the season I'm in. This last time I was there, and I literally just got back like a day and a half ago. Yeah. Fresh off the plane. Fresh out the gate. Still got some ocean grains in your hair. Yeah, exactly. Grains of sand between my toes. Yes. So I've had this feeling again, and it's like more intense. This feelings like just get more intense. But one thing I do know about feelings is that they're not always right. Right. So I want to vet it against God and just ask His, wisdom. I want discernment whether or not it's the move I should make to go to California and to live out there and more so too, also because like I've lived in Dallas the last 10 years of my life. Well, up until last September. Now, right now I'm living with my parents, but I lived in Dallas, I guess, the last 10 years of my life, and I've seen it. I feel like I've seen it all. I've done it all. And then I feel like there's not much left to explore here. Mm-hmm. And so, I've been using this analogy kind of like loosely, but, when you lose your keys, you don't always go back to the same spot. You lost them at. You go to different places. Yep. And so, not to say that I've lost anything, but, I feel like I am trying to find, establish, like, my life, for, like, the future. Yeah. And so, like... Find a different piece of yourself. Yeah, exactly. And who knows? It could be that I moved there, or it could not be. It could be that I moved to stay in Dallas, or, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that. That's just currently what I feel right now. So, anyways, like, we'll see. I'm excited. I think I feel very privileged, at least to be able to have this conversation or have this like option to be able to do that. I think, in my past, like I think I was telling you, I grew up very, very poor. And up until like, even like in my 20s, I was very, very broke. Mm-hmm. You mentioned something. You said, your Instagram looks popping, and for lack of a better way to say it, you know, it looks nice. You're traveling this, and the third. Everybody who's probably followed me the last year can say that. But if you've been following me on Instagram probably since 2011, since when I first opened the account, you would probably say, wow, like he's come a long way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've been doing intentionally right now about my Instagram account is I've been doing this thing where I try to point everything back to the Creator, back to God, back to Jesus, because he's the biggest reason why I have what I have at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up, like I said, with money. And even when I got my first corporate job, like my first corporate job was back in 2013. I was making 30 grand a year. So really just pennies at that time. Even at that time, even if you adjusted for, you know, inflation back in those days, I didn't make a lot of money, and I made that money for like 4 years. I had days where, you know, I'd clock in 7 a.m, 7 and leave at 7 at night, trying to get overtime. And, you know, I'd have McDonald's lunches in my car, many days in the garage. And then there was days where like I couldn't, you know, afford to like make, you know, sometimes like even rent. Like I'd even started working at Postmates, doing deliveries for Postmates, just to get extra supplemental income, trying to pay off debt. At the same time, trying to have a social life, which is like the hardest thing to do in your 20s, and you have your first job and you're just trying to figure it all out. Because I feel like, even like, not to make this an excuse, but like everybody who's Hispanic can probably resonate with this. Like, we're figuring it out as we go, especially if you're first generation.
Yes.
If you're first generation and, you know, you have a career, you have like a degree, a car, a place, like, shout out to you. That's a huge blessing in itself, because like our parents immigrated to this country and they sacrificed everything they had for us. And to see us make it to this point, like, it's a huge blessing. Like, we can't take that for granted. And I'm saying that right now, like, reanalyze. I know a lot of our goals that we have a lot of goals that we want to make big money, that we want to drive flashy cars, that we want to have all these things at our disposal. Like, and you know what? It will come. But we ought to give ourselves a little bit of grace too, as well, because nobody's given us the handbook, you know what I mean, on how to like have wealth, or how to like start your own investment portfolio, or how to invest in real estate, or, you know what I mean, or 401k and all this stuff. Like, none of that's taught to us. I've recently made myself privy to that, because I feel like now there are resources on there. Like back in those days in 2013, even Instagram wasn't what it was today. Like, I get on Instagram today, and guess what? I don't have to feel ashamed being a person who's sober. There's a community, there's accounts, there's different posts that people post right now that are huge, like influencers who champion sobriety, who champion a different way of life. But versus back in those days, it really wasn't. So you kind of felt kind of also even alone. You maybe even felt a little bit ostracized from society. One of those things is like, give yourself some grace. I think we are learning as we go, and we don't have all of the things at our disposal. One of the things, and I think one of the beautiful things too about that is you can also say, you know, it wasn't because of me. It wasn't because of my parents. It was because of God. Yeah. And God alone who opened those doors for me, because we can say that because it's like the evidence is there. The writing's on the wall. Yeah. At the end of the day. And for me, it was definitely that. Now, let's fast forward from I did that to going, I guess it would be probably, let's start in Denton, because that's where I would end up moving from Tyler. After finishing like my basics in Tyler at a junior college, I would go to Denton. I met one of my closest friends that I knew since grade school had invited me to go to Denton, and I partied with him, actually. I partied with him one weekend, and I told myself, I really love this. First time I ever blacked out drunk was at his place. And up until this point, like, the kind of drinker I was before then, I was like, it was always in the weekends, because that's when I could get away with it. That's when my parents wouldn't know. So I would drink with, one or two other people. We would pregame, like at somebody's house, in a parking lot, somewhere, and then we'd go to clubs.
Yeah.
And we go to clubs, till 2 a.m. And then after 2 a.m, then you'd go to an after party, and you'd be there probably till like 4 or 5 a.m. And so like my phone's blowing up. My parents are like, they're not strict, but like kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. And so they're trying to figure out, like, you said you were at the movies. Like, what movies, like, going out to, like, 4 a.m?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was a long movie. It started late. Horrible liar.
Were you the kid that pulled the wool over your parents' eyes because they weren't from America and they didn't understand American culture?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I thought I could manipulate them because I was like, they don't know, like... And I did that with everything, even with school. Like, I'd be like, show my report card, and they'd be like, they knew a little bit. Like, they knew, like, okay, like, like the grades and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like, I can make that up. Like, that's not final. This report card is not, like, a real thing. Like, there's, like, next year it's going to be more final than this one. Just sign it. Here you go. Thank you. It only worked for so long until they were like, no. Like, this is not it.
Yeah.
Back to alcohol. I made a lot of stupid decisions on alcohol. Like we would go to clubs, we'd go to parties. Man, it's not a myth when I say, like, and everybody knows this, when you're under the influence, like, you're almost always gonna make like a dumb decision.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I would always find myself making dumb decisions. Another dumb decision would be I used to have like this nice little little turbocharged car, and me and a friend, we were heading to the club. Car next to me wants to race.
Oh gosh.
I know. We're at the red light, and it's a stick. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it in first, and I'm gonna like mash it.
Yeah.
We have Four Locos in the car. And does everybody remember Four Locos? So for people who don't know, they were like these tall boys, basically. These 24, I think they're 24-ounce cans of like energy drink mixed with like picture an MD 2020.
Yeah.
It's
malt liquor.
Yeah. If they had a baby, you'd get this thing called a Four Loko, and they had different flavors. They had like blueberry, watermelon, and stuff like that. The allure behind it was the fact that you would drink one or two, forget about it. You're there. You're like, you're where you need to be. So they were cheap and effective. So they really, 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 really appealed to many people like myself at that time. I was like 20 years old, college student back in, I guess this was 07, 08 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Four Locos Four Locos in the car. Green light. Vroom! We race off. We're racing off to the club. That's the direction we're headed in. And I think they were too. Actually, yeah, they were. So we go, we're racing, and then all of a sudden, I lose the race. So it wasn't even worth it.
Yeah.
So then anyways, I put it back into gear, normal driving, and we're driving to the club, and we run into like some traffic on the way to the club. And I guess like by this time, like we had been pretty heavily buzzed. And so me and my friend were like talking like side by side. And when I'm talking like this. I'm like, yeah. I'm like driving like this. Yeah. Boom. I'm like, oh no, what did I do? I'm like, did I just hit this car in front of me? They put it in park. It's a truck. And I put it in park. And I'm like, crap. I tell my friend, I'm like, we gotta hide these Four Locos.
Yeah.
Because cops could come. So like these Four Locos, we're trying to like chug these Four Locos at this time. Yeah, we're trying to chug them.
Because that's always the answer.
And we're like, we can't chug these. We can't chug it. We drank as much as we could. And you know how like you have when you have a sedan, like the middle, sometimes the middle partition can fold down and you can throw stuff in the trunk.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we did. We threw these half-filled Four Locos in the middle and in the trunk. And we're like, oh my gosh, we just threw them in there because out of desperation, we're like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what this guy's going to say. Guy comes up to the window. I put my window down, and he's like, where y'all going? And I was like, oh, we're just going to the club up here. He's like, oh, y'all too? Like, yeah. Are you going? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're going too. Like, it's like I don't see anything in my truck. He's like, so I can get out of my car. And I'm like, yeah, it looks fine. It looks good. I look at my car and it's like, oh yeah, my car looks fine too, actually. He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, see you at the club. And then after that, we just left.
Yeah.
Get to where we're driving, but then all of a sudden we're like, dang, what is that smell?
Oh, yeah. The Four Locos.
We park and we get there and we're like, oh my gosh, all the Four Locos that spilled all over my...
I was about to say, I'm sure your car smelled awful.
For a long time.
For a very long time.
For a long time. It didn't help also the fact that it was like the summer.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is Texas. You don't
summer,
like,
so it just smelled real rank. It came to the point where I just had to sell it. There was nothing that was taking that smell out. So yeah, that would be another stupid incident based on alcohol where I didn't have the best judgment. I mean, there's a lot of dumb incidents that I've done under alcohol. I would say another one. Well, let me give you back some more background. I mean, I moved to Denton, and I was basically like a kid at a candy store at this point because, like, up until this point, I had to play by rules, mom and dad's rules, right? And I had to, like, kind of like, you know, show face at a certain time. You know, I had somewhat of a curfew, I guess you could say. You know, most of the time it was like, I'm depending on my mom to fall asleep. And, you know, in the morning, like, she would ask, what time did you get home? Like, oh, you know, it was 2. You know, I had to get home like 5 in the morning or something like that, 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
So, Denton was bad. And I think this is the part of the story where everybody's going to learn something from. Because this is where I started realizing that I had a problem. And when I didn't have control or when I didn't have limits, I was pushing it. Much like when I've been in the car and I tell you that I've been racing, I was always a fan of pushing the limit. I was always a fan of like seeing what I could get away with. And it goes back to that feeling of like, oh, I'm with friends. I want them to have a good time. I'm going to have a good time.
Taking it to that next level.
Taking it to that next level. Yeah. Really understand that, really doing that. And I guess I kind of fantasize or I kind of really idolize those like types of moments in my life. Because I thought that's what it was about. You know, you're young and, you know, you can do this. And so I'm young and like I live on my own. And so in Denton, I quickly realized when I moved there, I was like, I didn't have supervision, so I could go where I want to go. I could do what I want to do. And there was no shortage of parties. There was no shortage of like drugs. There was no shortage of like alcohol. Like all of it was there. I remember like my first night. I think I moved in like maybe like a Tuesday. And we went to the bar on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of messing with my brain. I'm like, I'm going to a bar on a Tuesday. I never do this. Because like my routine for the most part when I was growing up, even in my late teens to early 20s was like, go to work, you know, go to school, come home, do work, do school or, you know, chores or, you know, or work out. And that was it. And I was in Denton. I was around other people that were like, no, like, let's go to the bar. We're going to go get some drinks, you know.
You're done with school and what else are you going to do? Yeah.
And this was, and mind you, this was probably like, a week before school started. So I will clarify. Yeah. I went there to go to UNT. So I'm a UNT Eagle.
Yeah.
So, and for those listening on the podcast, what I just did, you heard a pause there. I actually did the claw. So that's the Scrappy Eagle claw. So, so I moved in. I remember that week before school started. I mean, I just basically drank every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then even when after school would start, I realized that I was partying a lot. I was partying maybe 5 or 6 times a week. And that's like a combination of going to bars, bar hopping, or going to clubs, or going to house parties. And some nights I was doing all 3. And I don't even know how I did it, like back in those days, because I didn't even know how I had that energy. But so that happened a lot between 2010, 2011. And I started to realize one thing. It was probably this event. So I had a class that started at 11 o'clock. It was a calculus class. And I remember I had partied so much the night before that I slept through an 11 o'clock class.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so when that happened, that was just such an eye-opening experience, even for me, I think at that point that I said, how did I allow myself to sleep through an 11 o'clock class? It wasn't an early, I could see if it was an 8 o'clock class, I slept through it, whatever, you know, I partied late last night, but this was an 11 o'clock class. That's when I started having my first initial thoughts, like, maybe I should slow it down. Like, maybe I should, like, maybe my weekends should start on Wednesdays or Tuesdays, you know, because that's how I was treating my life. I was treating it like that. And then also, quick disclaimer for everybody, I wasn't going to church during this time.
Yeah.
I moved out, went to Denton, almost prioritized like partying, clubbing, and this lifestyle that I was like, you know, I wasn't praying. I wasn't going to church. I didn't have a community of friends who even went to church.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that. And so like, I was very much like siloed into this like lifestyle that I was basically like really in love with at the time. All I wanted was, you know, to be around people. And I, you know, it goes back to what I told you. Like, I wanted to be around people who were having a good time and they were having a good time. And then, like, I also felt the need to also be, like, the life of the party. So, like, for me to be the life of the party, I was like, this little juice, this little liquid courage is going to get me there. And a lot of times, like, that's what I turned to. I started turning to that in those moments. Now, even though I did have a wake-up call, like with that 11 o'clock class, that wouldn't be the last time I would drink. I still told myself, well, there's maybe just a better way to manage this alcohol stuff. Yes. You know what I mean?
Famous last words. I can manage my drinking.
Exactly.
I can control this.
Exactly. Which later we're going to talk about. Why are we spending so much time managing what we call a fire? Because that's really what it is. I mean, you have like all these unspoken rules about how to not burn yourself with fire. How about we just don't play with fire to begin with and we avoid all that hurt, all that agony, all that pain, all that setback. Like, so. All
the stress of having to manage it.
That's what I'm saying. Like we're really trying really hard to make this work when maybe we shouldn't. So like, anyway, so this is the way I looked at it. So I looked at it like, okay, all right, well, maybe I just scale it back a little bit. And you know what? Weekends should start on Thursdays. Good enough for me. Yeah. Mondays through Wednesdays, Thursdays, I can just spend studying really good and, you know, just focus on that. And then Thursdays, you know, through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, whatever, like, that'll be like fun time. Yeah, no. So I quickly realized, what I quickly realized too was like, I was trying to always look for a workaround. Like, why was I looking for a workaround? Like, for instance, like with alcohol, like I was like, okay, like the reason why I wanted it in my life, it was a great way to like stay social. Like if you thought I was funny being sober, I knew that I could be way much more funnier, like under the influence of alcohol. I quickly became like, you know how like, okay, let's go back to the 90s, right? Have you ever seen the movie The Mask?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That was me. You put Jim Carrey puts the mask on and then he turns into this like transforms to this like crazy party guy.
Yeah, he's super cool.
He's a
nerd in real life.
Because he's a nerd in real life. And so like he doesn't have everything. And so that was me. I was the mask. I was Jim Carrey. I basically would transform into like this larger than life personality, which I really admired because I was like, oh yeah. I lied to myself, telling myself like, there's no way that I could be who I want to be just, you know, without alcohol. Like, and plus I'm having much more fun, like with it too. So like, it's a win-win for everybody, for me. And it's a win-win for whoever I'm with and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, this is how I can use alcohol to my advantage. I can use it to be the life of the party. I can use it to take away nerves. I can use it to like, I mean, I even remember like in school, like, we do group projects and sometimes we do presentations and, you know, right before a presentation, like in our group, like somebody'd have like a bottle of liquor and we're like, okay, we're going to take some shots just so like to kill off the nerves, give us a little bit of liquid courage. And this is how we're going to get through it. Isn't that crazy? Like
we justify our behavior with the stupidest excuses. Like
exactly. Yes. We justify it and we're just like, and we don't exactly look for those reasons to like say no.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, no, it's like, We just need one reason to say yes, or one reason to like go along with our point, and that's good enough for us. Which I quickly realized, I mean, even some good life advice for everyone, no matter what stage of life that you're in right now.
Sorry, I normally don't do this.
No, you're fine.
My dog has...
Quick commercial break.
Yes, quick commercial break. Anyway, go ahead. She's going to be on the podcast today.
What's her name?
Banana.
Banana. Do you like bananas?
No, she actually doesn't, which is weird.
These are the questions that people want to know.
I know. Say hello, Banana.
Banana. All right.
Christy.
So what I did want to say is I have some good life advice for anybody, doesn't matter what stage of life that you're in. I will say this, find the right community, find the right group of people. And when you do, put on your tough skin, because they're going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear, because a lot of the times we're living life with some blind spots.
Yeah.
And we don't actually realize it until somebody tells us. And of course, if you're on the other side of that fence, if you have a friend that you want to tell something to, please always use the right words. Speak out in love, right? That's what the word says. Speak out in love, but don't hesitate to tell somebody, hey, you got something in your teeth. Like, what are they going to think of me if I tell them this and that? No, like, tell them, like, hey, like, I don't know if you've ever known this. I don't know if this is coming out to me and I'm seeing this. I just care about you. I love you. And coming from a good place, I want to tell you this just so you know. And so, like, you can take that or not, but I just feel like something would be missing if I didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
So I always try to preface that with people that I'm in, people that I have friendships with, because I do see people, and it's funny because it's like age really doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Age doesn't really matter. But in my life, I've noticed that the majority of my friendships now, people are a little bit younger than me. And so I sometimes look at myself as like a mentor figure when I'm around them, because like I see what they go through, and I've been through that. I've seen that movie before, and I'm just like, no, I want to tell them something. I want to let them know, like, I've been through that, and I can tell you that it's different if you do it this way. Don't waste your time doing it that way. And oftentimes you tell people this, and it's like, sometimes they do what they want to do, and that's fine. People, don't get discouraged. If you see your friend not listen to you, that's totally fine. We're all on the journey. We all have to go through what we have to go through. But the good thing is, don't make them feel bad. Just like that story of the prodigal son, the father waited for his son to come back, and he was happy to have him come back when he came back. That's how we should be.
Yeah. Let's
not judge. Let's not point fingers. Like, we're all on the journey. And guess what? If they didn't listen before, maybe later they will. So sometimes it's worth it just to give them those words at that moment. And it becomes like a little savings account in their head. Yep. And your words will come up. They'll come back to it, and they'll be glad that you told them. So yeah, don't shy away.
More secrets to life are to come. But guess what? You're going to have to stick around for part 2.
Yay!